when people are stepping into retirement, most of them are coming from a situation where they're getting paid every other week.
Getting direct deposits.
So when you think about retirement, what kind of mindset shifts are there that need to change when you're thinking specifically about income?
The biggest shift is going from the natural saving mindset to how do I use all these savings.
Welcome to the Semmax Way, the definitive podcast for mastering finance, investment, and retirement planning. Prepare to unlock the secrets to financial success as we delve into lucrative investment strategies and provide expert guidance towards a secure retirement.
Hello and welcome. My name is Matt Landon. I am the CEO of Semmax Financial Group, and I also just so happen to be a CFP. And I am joined by somebody else who's also a CFP, Mr. Kyle Leonard.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for doing this. I appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you, pick your brain, ask you a bunch of questions. It's always a good time.
Yes.
But I want to jump right in. And today what I want to talk about is on the topic of income in retirement.
Okay.
So when people are stepping into retirement, most of them are coming from a situation where they're getting paid every other week.
Getting direct deposits.
So when you think about retirement, what kind of mindset shifts are there that need to change when you're thinking specifically about income?
The biggest shift is going from the natural saving mindset to how do I use all these savings to now start using it to funding my lifestyle.
Meaning you've always saved. It's like you have a certain amount come in, and then you save it. So I've seen in the past where people will take money out of their investments. They'll say, I need $6,000 a month. Live off of three, put three into savings account.
And they build their savings back up, and then they give us a call 6 months later and like, hey, I have all this money in savings. And you're like, oh, you're not supposed to do that.
You're like, why do you have an extra $24,000? That kind of a deal. Okay. Why is that a bad thing? Why not just keep doing that?
Well, it depends on what account you're taking it out of. If you're taking it out of pre-tax accounts, every penny you take out is taxable, and then you're putting it into your savings account. If you didn't need that money, you're just going ahead and paying taxes on money you didn't need to take, and it's increasing your tax bill. On top of that, if you take it out of those accounts and put it in a savings, you're really missing out on the interest that it could be making in the market as opposed to what your savings account might be doing at maybe 0.5%.
Yeah, I think some savings accounts are a little higher, but your point stands. You know, it's like you don't want the money being lazy. What's the purpose of it? What are we trying to accomplish here? So let me ask you this. When you think about a retirement paycheck, what does it usually look like? What are the different parts and pieces? Because when you're working, your check is, hey, every 2 weeks I have a paycheck. But it may not be coming from one source. Your retirement paychecks may be coming from multiple sources. So talk to me a little bit about this.
So when you're looking at paychecks or kind of income in retirement, most everybody's going to have Social Security that's going to come once a month. And then if you have a pension, if you're lucky enough to still have a pension, you'll have a pension. But then the rest of that money that you're going to have that's coming in as income is going to come in the form of distributions from your either retirement accounts or savings accounts that you might have, whether it's a non-qualified joint, a trust account, Roth IRA, traditional IRA, something like that. But really trying to figure out how do we structure it to where you're getting the money and the income that you need and you're getting it from the correct sources.
So what's wrong with just taking it from whichever account happens to have standing payment instructions already, or is the most convenient to reach from?
That's a great question. And the easiest thing I always tell people is taxes. What are we trying to accomplish with a tax situation? Because not all money is taxed the same. We have Roth money, Roth IRA money that's 100% tax-free. You have non-qualified money like joint money, savings account money that trust money may only have capital gains taxes, so only a portion of it's going to be taxed. And then you have your traditional IRA pre-tax money that all of it's going to be taxed. So trying to figure out where do we pull from in a certain tax situation. So currently we're in a pretty low tax environment. We want to take the bulk of that money if we can from pre-tax accounts. And as taxes get higher, we pull it from your Roth and then your non-qualified account to limit the tax burden.
So I think about it this way. I think about your taxes as something that, one, not everyone understands, right? So I think sometimes the place to start is just with what is the thing that I need to think about? Because when we talk taxes, we think, oh, well, taxes weren't bad for me. Last year I only owed $1,000. It's like, well, did you only owe $1,000 or did you write a check for $1,000 when you filed your tax return?
Because if you pay taxes throughout the year and you still owed, it's like, what did you actually pay to the federal government?
So what was the total tax bill? And then the different things that factor into it. Because to your point, capital gains taxes are at one rate, and it's anywhere from 0 to 20+%, depending on, are we talking short term, long term, your other income sources, even like your taxable accounts, your IRA account, you're in different brackets. And so making sure you don't bump into the next bracket. Talk to me about a real world example of something where a decision could be made and it affects more than 1 year, right? So it was like you say, hey, we got some kids that are getting married, we're buying their first home. We're going to take this large chunk out, we're going to give it to them, and we're just going to do it all at once. How would that affect more than potentially just the one tax year that you're in?
The biggest situation that you're going to see when you decide to take a large lump sum of money out of an account, whether it even is a non-qualified account or a retirement account, is the adjusted gross income, but also that is going to affect your Medicare premiums, not the same year that you do it, but 2 years down the road. So you're not going to see it the next year. You're going to see it in 2 years, and you're going to be like, why? Why does this
Answer me that. Why do we see it 2 years? Why not next year?
It all depends. It all is dependent upon the IRS's way of how they calculate your Medicare premiums and what they use. So they use your tax return and based on date of birth and a bunch of different things. It's just easier if they go 2 years out because they know that we have everybody's at that point in time.
Right. So if your birthday's in October, obviously we have last year's tax return. But if your birthday's in January, I don't have last year's tax return.
So if we just make it 2 years,
everybody's got their tax return. So we're all using the same tax return for everybody. So it's just continuity. That's really what drives it. I feel like that can cause a surprise for people 2 years in a row. Because we had someone who came in, they had done a $450,000 Roth conversion. They had blown through the 22, they were into the 24% tax bracket. And then the next year they had done it again. And it's like, wait a minute, now they get hit with this Medicare premium and they're like, is this going to continue? And it's like, yes, it is, because every year they relook at it.
Every year.
Well, what do you think the people are most surprised by when they see those different income sources on their tax return?
I think the biggest thing is understanding where all that money is coming from, because they probably see it and you're going to see it hit your checking account or your savings account. You're going to see it hit your bank accounts. But where is all this money coming from? Why do I have money coming from Social Security? Why do I have money coming from Fidelity? If you have an annuity, why is it coming from this annuity company? Why do I have all these income sources? And then you have to tie all the tax forms back to the income sources. So it can get a little confusing as to I know how much money I have coming in every month, but where is it all coming from?
Well, and I think some of these are decisions that have to be made on the front end too. Because, for example, a non-qualified annuity is going to be tax deferred, which is wonderful. I love deferring my taxes. I don't want to pay taxes. But then when you do pay taxes, you pay at your income tax rate, not a capital gains rate. You also have to factor in step up in cost basis. So if you're thinking about leaving this to the kids, so sometimes it has to do with not just the account, right, itself, because it's like, wait a minute, you told me this was my sum tax account. That means capital gains. And they're like, except when it means
this. Except when it means an annuity or except when it means life. It can be very confusing as to what we're looking at. I think that's the power of working with a certified financial planner, is making sure that they understand kind of what's going on in your situation.
And I think that's why it also makes sense not to wait to have this conversation until you step into retirement. Maybe 5 years before, sometimes 10 years before. You go, well, wait a minute, most of my money's in my 401k. Why do I need to talk to somebody now? And it's like, because it's not all of your funds. And there's things that you do and ways to do it, especially considering Roth conversions, right, and Roth contributions. So for those of you that don't know, with Roth conversions, there's a 5-year seasoning rule.
There is,
right? So the money that goes in, yes, that money is now tax free, but those capital gains or the gains that are inside of there, there's a 5-year seasoning rule before that is income tax free. So we think about a Roth account as, hey, the money's in a Roth, it's tax free. Not necessarily.
And it's each conversion.
Right.
Yes.
But what I find fascinating is if you have money that is post-tax inside of a 401k and you took it out of your very last paycheck and then you roll it to a Roth account that's already seasoned, it comes over fully seasoned.
Yes.
Would you argue that people are not aware of that or not utilizing that correctly?
I don't think people are aware of it, how it works, because the Roth is a very nuanced investment. I would say it's a very nuanced investment account type.
Yeah.
The Roth rules are very, very specific.
Yeah.
And the IRS tries to make it as cumbersome as possible sometimes, I think.
And it's all about the details.
It's all about the details.
And that's what I kind of love about these kinds of conversations is I think it's important to be able to go into the details.
Yeah.
But also keep it high level. So if you're thinking through this and you're kind of thinking about that through line with your taxes, or you're thinking about your retirement income, if you were going to boil it down to the person who isn't a big finance nerd, who isn't diving into this stuff all the time and is super excited to know all the details of the Secure Act 2.0 and how it differed from the Secure Act 1.0, just your average person, what would you hope they take away when they're thinking about taxes as it pertains to their retirement income?
Yeah. Making sure you understand the income that you're getting, where it's coming from, and then how it's taxed. I don't think anybody needs to be an expert in tax calculation or distribution of assets when it comes to, if I take this dollar out from this account, how much am I going to get taxed? Is it 15% or 16%? But understanding, if I take money out of this account, I know this is all going to hit my tax return. If I take money out of this account, only some of it's going to hit my tax. If I take money out of this account, none of it's going to hit my tax. Understanding what that looks like.
And then factoring in things like QCDs for those that are in
Roth conversions or anything like that.
And then also like donor advised funds and different ways to maximize either charitable giving or estate planning.
Yeah.
Because I think the estate planning piece is a big piece of it.
It's a huge piece. Yeah. Making sure that you understand that if you know you're going to be passing money on to your children, grandchildren, or any beneficiary, understanding how that money is taxed to them when they get it, or it could have come to a nature where you're going to pass it on to a church. Because how many times have you seen it where a potential client walks in and they're like, oh yeah, I met with my pastor and they told me to leave the church in the will and all I have is an IRA. And it's like, oh, that's a great way to do that. Can we fix that for you?
Yep. Yeah, either don't leave money into the church inside of your will. Use it as a beneficiary inside of an IRA account because it's tax free to the church. Your beneficiaries have to pay the taxes, but the house they get that step up in cost basis. Or it could be your alma mater. It could be the animal shelter. It does kind of drive me nuts that you'll have an attorney will say, hey, do you want to leave money to charities in your will? We can write it in. And it's like, yeah. And then they go, well, what's the tax implication? They go, talk to a CPA. And then you talk to a CPA, and what does the CPA say? They're like, I'm not touching that. That's an estate planning conversation.
That's a lawyer question.
I'm not getting there. Talk to your lawyer. And then you're left going, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
And I think that's where sitting down with someone like you or myself, a CFP who knows what they're talking about, he says, okay, what are we ultimately trying to accomplish?
Yes.
Right? It's like, what are we trying to accomplish? Then let's work backwards to the right tools.
Yeah. Find what the goal is and how can we structure the road path to get to those goals.
So a question that I ask a lot, and I notice when people answer it, some people have a high degree of confidence.
Okay.
A lot of people don't.
Okay.
But a question I ask a lot of times is, do you know how much money you can spend every month without worrying about it? Why is it that you think people don't know the answer to that? And what do you think is a way to solve for that?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
I think most people probably don't know the money they spend every month because while they're working, they know how much money they're getting.
Yeah.
And they know what bills have to be paid.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just kind of on autopilot. If their income changes, they may up their 401k contributions, but they're not following and tracking every single dollar. It's just money comes in, money goes out, and money gets saved. It's not one of those where they follow along and they say, if I get paid $5,000 this month, I know, $265 goes towards my energy bill.
Right.
That stuff. It's just, it gets paid. I don't know how it gets paid. It just does.
But even beyond that, like the distribution rules and like I've heard of this 4% distribution rule versus I think I can take 60,000, 60,000 out of what, and that kind of thing too. Do you think that, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying to a degree, people don't always know what they're spending every month.
No,
and
I
then
don't think they do.
Stepping into retirement, how much is this going to change what we're actually spending every month?
Yeah.
And then another piece of it is, well, I don't know how much I can take
without running out of money.
Yeah. I've accumulated this bucket, but now how do I take from it?
Yeah.
And what's your opinion of the 4% rule?
I don't hate it, but I think it's out of touch, if that makes sense. Like, I think it could be updated because when you're looking at the historical average of, I would call a 60-40 portfolio.
Okay.
Which is kind of the baseline for investing standpoint. You know, you're probably earning on average anywhere from 7 to 8% per year. So if you take 4%, you're going to make more money. That's fine. But taking 5-6% is probably going to accomplish the same thing. You just might not see the same growth.
So I would say that is probably the difference between somebody who has a built out plan and somebody who's just guessing.
Yes.
If you take 4% as a baseline, you're guessing that's probably going to work out and you kind of run with it.
Yeah.
Versus looking at your actual portfolio,
that's a good way to look at it.
Historical returns, projected returns, and saying, okay, I'm anticipating I can reasonably pull X on a consistent basis. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I like that way. That's a good way to put it. I might steal it.
All I did was re-say what you said.
I'm going to steal it from you.
You're welcome to have it. So let me ask you this then. When it comes to timing, and I think you kind of answered this already, but somebody that's 8-10 years out, would you say it's too soon for them to really be thinking or talking about it? Or if they should be thinking about it, what should they be thinking about?
Yeah. No, I don't think 8 to 10 years out is too soon to sit down with a financial planner.
Okay.
I actually think that's a perfect time because it gives you enough time that if there's changes that need to be made to accomplish the goals, that you can still accomplish those changes before heading into retirement.
So you're saying it's like you have enough of a runway. If we need to make some adjustments,
we can make that.
You can make a 2-degree shift.
Yes.
And you'll see the impact.
Yeah.
You know,
if you come in a year from retirement, you're like, oh, I want to make these changes or I want to do this. And you're like, we're kind of locked in because the front wheels are up. We're taking off.
Yeah.
Like there's no real changes that can be made.
Well, and I heard about it. I heard it described this way one time, and I thought it was pretty neat. Whereas, like, if you get on a plane and you see them right there at the runway, let's say they shift the nose of that plane 2 degrees.
Yeah.
On a Boeing 747, a 2-degree shift, it's going to be like 40 feet.
Okay.
The nose of that plane is going to move like 40 feet to the side.
Okay.
Right? That's not nothing. But 40 feet, you're still in the same general area.
Yeah.
Right? You're in the same space.
Yeah.
But if you have a heading and you take out of LAX and you're headed to New York and you shift the nose of that plane 2 degrees right after takeoff, and you just keep following that line, you're not making it to New York.
No.
You're going to Canada.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's
or
like
Georgia.
Yeah, exactly. So a small shift compounded over time, with distance, with that runway of years and weeks and months and days. It's like as you get closer, all of a sudden, those adjustments that you make, you have to make a much more significant adjustment to try and get back on track versus earlier on making small adjustments. Yeah. And would you agree that you feel like if your advisor's doing a really good job, most of these are things you don't even really notice?
Yes, they should all be done in the background. There shouldn't be a ton of.
It's just
are they actually doing changes? It's doing little tweaks along the way. Every time you sit down with a client and say, we need to make this little tweak. And they're probably wondering, why are we making so many tweaks? And it's because 15 years from now, those tweaks are going to come into massive gains.
Yeah, those small adjustments, they add up over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you think about this, because I was thinking about that coordination gap. And those little adjustments that you make when it comes to estate planning and your taxes and your financial advisor. Why is it so hard to get it all together? Why can't you have your attorney and your CPA and your financial advisor in the room or serve the same function and just do it all at once? Why is it so hard, and why does it end up so often on the client to try and figure this out on their own?
I think the answer to that is more of a structure of how the organization probably works.
Okay.
I know in our situation,
because I've got a cynical reason.
Yeah.
I'll ask you what your thoughts are.
I think a lot of firms, not including ours, not including Semmax, I think a lot of it has to do with how compliance requires it to be. Is that we don't the organization, the corporation, the financial advising firm doesn't have its own CPA on staff. So they're not going to say, hey, we can allow a third party to come in here and give you advice inside of our building. Or they're not going to allow an attorney to come in and say, hey, we can give you an advice. It's one of those where it's like, do that all by yourself.
It can even be the situation where the financial advisor knows, but they're like, I can't talk to you about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's got to be irritating.
I think we see it all the time when we have potential clients come in and they say that kind of stuff. I had one happen last week when a potential client came in and they were like, we just want some help with our taxes, but every time we talk to our current advisor, they tell us to go talk to our CPA and they won't give us any help. And I'm like, that stinks.
Well, and
let me help you fix that.
I think that's the difference between tax preparation and tax planning, right? Tax preparation is saying, did you take all of your forms and put them in the right box, and did you actually prepare the taxes appropriately? I don't think you're ever going to do someone's taxes.
Gosh,
you're not doing
my own.
You're not doing tax preparation.
No.
Yeah, it's like that's why I have a CPA. I have them prepare my taxes.
Yeah.
But tax planning is looking at it and going, okay, inside of this account that my wife and I both have our names on, it's a joint account.
Yeah.
That stock, I've been holding on to it for 330 days. Why did you just sell it? And then I paid short-term capital gains. If we had held on to it for another month and a half, I'd be paying long-term capital gains, and then I would be saving considerably.
Yeah.
That is, in my opinion, that's tax planning. It's saying, how are we turning this over? Am I using mutual funds inside of that account?
Yeah.
Or am I using ETFs? Or am I using individual stocks? And then inside of there, looking at it with that critical eye and saying, what are we ultimately trying to accomplish out of this account?
Yeah.
And here's the caveat I'll say. And I'm getting kind of wound up here, but you can agree or disagree. I don't have a problem with paying capital gains tax if I made money.
Yeah, I just made money.
I do have a problem with paying unnecessary capital gains tax if I can avoid it.
Yes.
And so it's like there's that trade-off there of like saying, okay, there's two sides to this coin, and let's make sure we're being cognizant of, yes, we want to get the best returns we can, but also what's almost more important is the returns we keep.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, returns we keep is a big thing.
Yeah.
We don't need to be making all this money our clients don't need to be making all this money in their accounts and having to pay it all back to the IRS.
So what does a CFP do differently in this whole ecosystem than a lot of advisors? Like how do we do it differently? It might be a better way of putting it, because there's some CFPs that are still stuck in that same ecosystem. So how would you say we do it differently?
I think the biggest thing that we do differently is we don't focus on returns as the sole motivating factor for what we recommend. We really look at what does a client's total picture look like, or their holistic financial life look like, and figure out, okay, if we make changes here, how is that going to affect this?
Yeah.
If we make changes to that, is it going to affect this?
Now, that's not to say we ignore returns.
No.
But it's to say returns are not the entire conversation.
Yeah, they're not. Because if I can make 10%, but I got to pay 3% back in taxes, I'm better off making 8% with someone else.
True.
So,
True.
Yeah, I mean, the returns are a portion of it, but it's not the whole pie.
Yeah.
It's a sliver of the overall financial picture of what's going on in someone's life.
Yeah. Because I think about it this way. If you spend the entire time in a meeting talking returns, right? It's like we're talking and all we ever talk about is returns. It's like, what did we do for an hour?
Yeah.
And here's the reason I say this. I think that the time of you go to your financial advisor and you sit down and you say, okay, I know I've been getting statements mailed to me for a year, but they don't really show me what percentage I am. It's a dollar amount.
Yeah.
And I know I've been taking money out, but I also rolled over some money, and I don't know what's my return over the last 12 months. And you say, hey, you made 7.5%, Bob, or you made 18.3%. And they're like, oh, great. What did the market do over that same time period? And you got to tell them, well, the market's done X and Y. Because they're not seeing that in their newspaper every day. Well, guess what? We have cell phones.
Yeah, we have apps.
We have all kinds of apps. Yeah. It is very easy for you to see what was your return over the last 12 months. Yeah. It's very easy for you to see your return compared to a benchmark and look at the S&P or look at the NASDAQ or look at different things. It's easy to have that conversation. Yeah. So I think it's important to talk about that and say, where are we? Are we hitting our benchmarks? Are we where we want to be from a returns and a risk perspective? But beyond that, if I look at you and I said, okay, Kyle, over the last year, the S&P is up 18.6%. You're up 22%. You're a bit more aggressive, but I know you're comfortable with that. Has anything changed there? No,
I'm good.
All right, well, now what are we going to talk about for the next 59 and a half minutes? It's like, how's your golf game? No, we need to be talking, we need to be talking taxes.
Yeah.
We need to be talking estate planning.
I mean, income planning.
Inflation.
Yeah.
The impact of inflation.
Yeah.
How's that affecting your income?
Yeah.
Where are we headed with things?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I would say we are not stockbrokers or stock pickers. We are truly financial planners looking at your total financial plan and how can we help make it better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the long-term care piece of that and the what if we lose a spouse questions, particularly when it comes to income, because I know we're primarily talking about income today.
Yeah.
But when you lose a spouse, talk to me about how that affects income.
Yeah, it can be very devastating, especially when you lose. You're definitely going to lose the lower of the Social Securities that you have between the two. But realistically, expenses really aren't going to change that much. It's not like Duke Energy is going to call up and say, hey, I'm sorry for your spouse. We're going to cut your energy bill in half.
Yeah.
It stays the same. Your water bill stays the same. Pretty much all of your expenses stay the same, but you have one less income. And after that year is up that they pass away, now you're in a different tax bracket. So
because you're no longer filing married filing joint. Now you're filing single.
Yeah.
So we've lost a Social Security. You've also lost your best friend, your support, your partner, right? Yeah. And so there's things that they might be doing for you that you now have to hire a handyman or have to have someone assist with some of these things. And so it's like you don't really see, to your point, Duke Energy really doesn't come in and go, oh, your husband passed away? We're going to cut your bill in half.
Yeah.
They don't do that.
They're only half the energy is being used now because of that.
Your cell phone bill. They don't turn around and go, oh well, there's less people using data on your internet plan. We're gonna cut it down. A lot of these things stay the same. There's a few things that will go down.
Yeah,
but by and large, it's going to remain the same. Yeah. But so you've got less income coming in, and then the government kicks you when you're down. Yeah. And throws you in that single tax bracket.
And then you're like, wait a second, I'm paying more money in taxes.
Yeah.
Than I was when my spouse was alive. What's going on?
And so to take it whole circle, all the way back to the beginning of some of those Roth conversions that you do early on, that can be so beneficial because you may be pulling off of that Roth account 15, 20 years down the road, but it doesn't mean we need to try and convert every dollar. Yeah. Because also those RMDs still stick around.
Yeah, those RMDs stick around. But pulling from that Roth is going to be crucial, especially in that time when you have it, when you have you go from a joint tax return to a single tax return, and you're like, I need this money. I don't want to pay a ton of money in taxes, and if I take this from my IRA, I'm going to. Yeah. Let's take it from your Roth.
And so for those that don't know, because we just kind of said RMDs and then dribbled on. Yeah. For those that don't know, what the heck is an RMD? Yeah. So what is a required minimum distribution?
Required minimum distribution is the base amount of money when you turn a certain age. So if you were born before 1960, it's age 73, and if you're born after 1960, it's age 75. But it's basically the IRS saying you have all this money built up inside of these pre-tax accounts. So an IRA, 401k, SEP IRA, simple IRA, and the IRS basically says, hey, great job. We need you to start enjoying this money because we want to enjoy your money. Yeah. And so they force you to start taking those required minimum distributions. And it's money the bare minimum that you have to take out every single year. You can take more out, but you can't take any less unless you want to pay penalties.
What's the penalty?
The penalty is 25% of whatever you don't take.
So you mean to tell me if I'm supposed to take $20,000 out and I don't, I now owe the IRS $5,000
on top?
Still have to pay income taxes on $20,000?
Yeah, and then you got to take the next year's RMD out plus a penalty. It's a lot.
So we're taking it. Well, it's not really a question.
The bare minimum.
We're taking it.
Yes.
Yeah. So then let me ask you this. How often do people come in and sit down who are not current clients and bring in an income plan that they've already put together?
I can't say I've ever had a single person sit down with me and bring a income plan that we didn't create.
Really?
Yeah. They brought statements.
Okay.
And they brought tax returns, and they brought maybe some estate planning documents, but I don't know if I've ever seen
You've not seen someone bring in a bound, this is a plan, I'm retiring at 65, this is where I'm pulling from at 67, we're going to shift to here, we're going to activate Social Security at this point, this is how it ties in.
I think that's why they come in.
Yeah.
They come in because they have all these accounts, and they don't know where to take money from, so they come in to talk with us to figure that out.
What should they do next aside from just come in? Is there anything specifically that they should be thinking about when they're bringing things in? What would make it the most beneficial meeting possible, or the most productive meeting?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is bringing in your financial statements.
Right.
Bringing in, a recent tax return, whether it's a year or two old, bringing that in, preferably the previous year's tax return. And then bringing an open mind. Yeah. Bringing an open mind. There's a reason that we're here. We want to help. We're not trying to sell you or do anything negative. We're really trying to provide a service to the community, and just bring an open mind that we're going to be here to offer help. Don't come in here closed off or guarded.
Yeah, because something I like to understand, and I would agree it's helpful to bring in statements and to bring in your tax return. But the questions that I always ask, and I know you do the same thing, it's usually not how much do you have and what is it in?
Yeah.
Because I can get that from a statement.
Yeah.
What I can't get from a statement is, how did you get this money?
Yeah.
What do you want this money to do?
Yeah. What are your goals?
What are your goals? Yeah. What are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
What's important to you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, do you want to plan a golf trip to St. Andrews?
Yeah.
Or do you want to give more to charity? Or do you want to do both?
Yep.
Do you want to leave a large blessing to your kids? Are you trying to have a higher cash flow? Mm-hmm. It's like, what do you need this money to do? What are we really trying to accomplish?
Yeah. That's a good point. I guess that kind of in the open mind is have some clarity onto what you're trying to accomplish. What are the ultimate goals now that you've been working for 40, 50 years, and now it's time to retire? It's like, well, what does retirement look like?
So think about what your perfect day is, what your ideal day in retirement is, right? Think about maybe the outcomes you want, but be open-minded to the strategy of how to get there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I like it. Yep. I like it. Keeping in mind, not everyone's going to do it the same way.
Yep.
I have some clients that, particularly in the wintertime, they don't come in at 3 or 4 o'clock because they don't want to be out on the roads when it gets dark.
Yep.
Right. And that there's some truth to that. They say, I don't drive at night anymore. Other people say, yeah, I have no problem driving at night. And honestly, I prefer driving on the interstate. Other people say, I don't like being on the interstate. I want to take backcountry roads. It's not right or wrong. It is different.
It's their preference.
Right? So if you tell me I don't want to drive after 5 p.m. and I don't want to take the interstate, you're going to have a very different route to get to the beach.
Yep.
We're going to start at a different time in the morning. We're going to take a completely different path to get there versus somebody who says, well, I'd like to go, but I got to work all week. So I'm going to be heading out the door at about 7 p.m. and I'm hustling down I-40 and we're just trying to get to Wilmington.
Yeah.
Right. There are two very different ways to do it.
But they get to their goals.
Yep. I think that's the key thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, do you have any kind of closing thoughts or anything that you want to make sure people keep in mind or are aware of?
No, this has been great. I appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you sharing. I know you are a wealth of knowledge, and whenever we sit in a room, I always learn new things from you. Because particularly when we're sitting down with clients together, what I love is that collaborative approach.
I love
it. It's always two people sitting down. You have more than one advisor that's keeping things in mind. You have more than one set of eyes on things, and that's so powerful. I think it's great. But I appreciate you taking time out of your day to sit down with me and go through this. So for those of you that have been listening, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you are interested in sitting down with an advisor and having a second set of eyes on your current plan or helping you construct a plan, that's something that we'd be glad to do. You can reach out through all of us, through the socials, on the website, whatever way you want to get in contact with us. We make it easy.
Yes.
But you're welcome to do so. Thanks for listening. On behalf of Kyle, myself, the whole team here at Semmax, we hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Semmax Way. If you're not completely satisfied with your current financial advisor, give us a call for a second opinion. Please note that this podcast is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. The content shared on the Semmax Way should not be considered as investment advice. It is always recommended consult your licensed investment representative and a competent tax advisor respectively for your fiduciary needs and plans. No statement contained in the Semmax Way podcast or made by its producers, sponsors, host Matt Landon, or Semmax Financial Group is a recommendation. Semmax Financial Group and Matt Landon are not responsible or liable for investment value loss of any kind from any action taken based on information discussed in the Semmax Way podcast. Any opinions or viewpoints in this podcast are shared for information and entertainment purposes only and are not financial advice. We do encourage you to conduct further research and seek personalized advice for your specific financial circumstances. Full disclosure available at semmax.com/podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to having you tune in for future episodes of the Semmax Way.